What's going on, my friend? It's Jeff Newport from ChasingStrength.com. And in today's video, we are discussing the topic of rest, specifically why you need more rest for more gains in strength and size, especially using kettlebells. Okay, so let's dive in here. If you're like many of us, you probably have some kind of hardcore background or bent, as they say, to your mindset when it comes to working out, or as we like to say on this channel, training, right? Maybe it was football gassers or wrestling, shark bait, shark tank, right? Shark in the middle, whatever you want to call it, maybe even boot camp. And as a result, we measure our workouts by how tough they are, right? How tired they make us. And the iron sports, well, it's pretty much the same thing, right? Go heavier, go home. Go harder, go home. One more rep. It's all you, bro. You got this. Right? You get the idea. That last one kills me, man. That was time tested. We did that all the time. One more rep, bro. You got this. As you put the fingers on the bar, right? And you slowly inch them up. For many of us over 40, 50, and beyond, at this late stage in the game, or seemingly late stage in the game, it's pretty hard for us to change our viewpoint and our opinion on what makes a good workout or how to get the best results. It's almost like we've been brainwashed to think a certain way, right? But the reality is when we're 10, 15, 20 plus years out from the trenches, it requires that we adopt a new or more scientific, for lack of a better term, mindset, right? If we're truly serious about developing a stronger, leaner, and better conditioned body. For example, in his timeless work, The Science and Practice of Strength Training, Dr. Vladimir Zatsiorsky, who was chief biomechanicist for all of the Soviet Union teams between 1980 and 1988, states that the secret to great strength is this: train as heavy as possible, as often as possible, as fresh as possible. Now, most of us are unaware of that last part, as fresh as possible. And that's because what most of us, we intuitively know, but we haven't put it together in so many words, is that fatigue makes you weaker, right? It decreases your ability to produce force. It alters your exercise technique for the worse. And as a result, it can expose or exposes you, in many cases, to increased injury potential. So with that background, let me share a common question I routinely get. This time it came from Sal, and it's up here in this email, and we'll flash it on the screen. He says, Jeff, quick question, I hope. I'm on Giant 1.1, having recently completed Giant 1.0 using double 20 kgs. On Wednesday, I'm able to get 6 sets of 8 reps, but it's very taxing aerobically. On Monday prior this week, I was able to get 12 sets of 6 reps, many more total reps. Also recently reset form per your technique manual and not sacrificing speed to get reps. Just wondering if that sounds normal to get gassed from adding 2 more reps to each set on Wednesday. Right? So Sal asks why just bumping his reps up from 6 to 8 is so much more aerobically taxing, and why his total workload decreased by 12 reps when doing sets of 8 versus sets of 6. Now, let me just state for the record, this is perfectly normal when using a fixed load like a kettlebell or a pair of kettlebells in Sal's case, and basing your training off a repetition max like we do around here. The higher the reps, right, per set, the greater the percentage of effort you're using in relation to your repetition maximum, okay? Let me state that again because it's super important that we get this. The higher the reps per set, the greater percentage of effort, right, you're expending, or as we said in the old days, intensity, right, you're using in relation to that repetition maximum. So, for example, if you're using a 12 repetition max or 12 RM, 8 reps is 66% of the effort in relation to that RM, whereas 6% is only 50% effort. So, with 8 reps, you're using 16% more effort per set than compared to only using 6 reps. And that means you're increasing fatigue with each set you do. And that's going to mean you need to rest longer between sets so you can still produce enough force to get that next set of 8, right? So said differently and succinctly, more reps per set relative to your repetition maximum equals more fatigue produced in that set, and that equals more rest between sets. Okay, now let's say that a little differently. So sets of 8 are harder than sets of 6 when using the same weight or load, right? That kind of stands to reason. And as a result, you'll need to rest more between sets. So let's remember, you need to remain as fresh as possible. So it's fresh, not fatigued, as possible, right? It doesn't mean you avoid fatigue at all costs. It just means to the best of your abilities right, in that given training session. Now, the other thing I want to address is Sal's question here about changing his technique and seeing performance decreases. It's not only possible, but in fact, it's probable that since Sal changed his technique, he might have lost, air quotes as we like to use around here, a few reps in the short term. Or rather, his current reps took more out of him than his regular reps. Okay, now I want to state again for the record that this is perfectly natural and normal. When you change your technique to become more efficient, you are training or ingraining new neural pathways. And that takes more energy until it doesn't, until it becomes your new normal. So often what happens is it presents itself in this way. The first few reps of a set actually feel easier, and then the last few reps feel heavier. And that's because your body is using more of the right muscles at the right times, usually the bigger energy-sucking prime movers, and less of the wrong muscles at the wrong times. And these are usually the smaller stabilizer muscles. Now, this takes more energy to use the right muscles at the right time, and it's fighting your brain's desire to switch over to the old energy-efficient and wrong neural pathways. Okay. So eventually all the reps will feel easier as your body continues to fortify, or build and fortify those new neural pathways. So as a result, you'll get stronger and more muscular. Now that's assuming that you're going to respect the fact that fatigue interferes with force production and you need to rest more between sets instead of rushing each and every set and rep. So what's that mean? It means this: at the end of the day, resting less between sets doesn't make you tougher, as much as we'd like to believe that it does, or more hardcore, It actually just robs you of your gains, as we like to say, gains, all caps, with a Z. And if you want to see similar results to Sal, I'll leave a link to the same program he's using in the video description below, along with some technique resources in case you need to brush up on your single or double kettlebell techniques. Okay. If you found this video helpful, click the like button, smash the subscribe button, share it with a friend who might be struggling with resting too little, and thinks he's got some kind of guilt complex for resting too much between sets, but he's not seeing the results he wants to. And finally, what's your experience been with resting between sets? Too much, too little, Whatever you got, throw it in the comments below, okay? But just stay classy, okay? Until next time, my friend, stay strong.